racists against the Klan or the Patriot Front. So all of this is lining up with what we have been seeing, and now we have this individual who's being looked at almost like a Luigi. And then it gets deeper. I don't know if this is true, but there's rumors spreading around Twitter that the younger Hinton wasn't actually in the process of stealing a car, but that they missed a payment, and it was reported as stolen. So I see a lot of manufactured outrage. I don't think that part is true. Doesn't matter. We're not really talking about what's true. We're talking about what people believe, and there's a pretty big gap there. But these psyops are all aligning perfectly with this pattern, and I'm not sure where it's heading yet, but I'm leaning towards what Tucker Carlson said and Alex Jones, that there's going to be some kind of incendiary event, something along the lines of Patriot Front being attacked or something. It's the pattern that's emerging. We're reading the curve, as I said in that Leave the World Behind. One of the sections was the curve, and there's this character who's talking about how he can read what's coming, and he alludes to what we do every day. And I think it's a direct allusion, actually, knowing who's behind the movie, that it was sort of like a Metascriptor's view on events. Commenter says, Homeland Security to be wise to concentrate on the U.S. 100th idiot effect. Yes, absolutely. And people are prone to react to what they see online, just like MK Ultra victims, which they are. So we'll see what the puppet masters have in store. A lot of people think it's going to be a summer of love, like 2020, which I wouldn't be shocked. I'm actually looking forward to what's supposed to happen about a month from now. 1 month from now, we're going to be talking about the Space Needle. In fact, I'm going to go watch the Final Destination Bloodline next week. I have a lot of movies to catch up on. I have to go see Mickey 17 and Captain America because we're looking at these movies and how their timed and coordinated release pertains to the influence operations of the day, what people think of as news. And all of these have had pertinent messaging, eerie, coincidental timing with events. Now, the 100th monkey effect is a hoax, by the way. There's no such thing. You can't teach a monkey something here, like how to wash the mud off the potato or whatever, and then other monkeys figure it out through some kind of collective consciousness. That's fake. But the 100th idiot effect is real. That one is 100% real. It's contagious. I often wonder how many things are really contagious. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if narcissism was quite literally contagious. Like, I think it is. I think it's passed down through families, through cultures, and individuals. I think it's actually some kind of I do think there's some sort of a mind virus-like effect with certain things. Like the mind virus, not as a literal thing, but it does kind of, as a model, explain certain things when it comes to people who are very passive about what they choose to believe. Like, I've made this comparison because this is all by design. Because now we're facing the advent of disease X, the mind virus that's going to justify shutting everything down. We're getting there, and people are looking for it. They want this. They want this to be fixed. The spread of memes on the internet is just too much, and people are going to ask and beg for it to be locked down, save us from Elon Musk and all that. But disease X is coming, and they're going to use the same arguments that they used in 2020. For the, quote, public health, the private citizen must restrain themselves. For the public mental health, the private netizen will have to restrain themselves. When it comes to our content on the internet, they're treating everything that we put out there as potentially infectious, like a mind virus, a potential weapon of mass destruction. You might incite somebody, you might radicalize somebody. And this is specifically referring to the mentally ill. You notice how for the last 15 years, all these mass shooters have all been said to have been mentally ill? That they're listening to Rush Limbaugh, they pop off. They listen to Alex Jones, they go on Discord, and now they're radical. This idea has been spread for a long time. And then in the last 3 or 4 years, really since 2022, maybe Audrey Hale, Robert Crimo, they've been, I think, kind of leaning towards saying that these shooters are now leftists and they're being radicalized by Reddit. And people on the right are fine with that because they hate Reddit. So what you see here is both sides now agree that there are mind viruses that will affect the mentally ill. So when they shut things down, it's not because of you and me. It's because of the extremists who have weak mental immune systems because they're mentally ill. It's the same thing that they said in 2020, that the asymptomatic healthy people were the dangerous super spreaders. Like, well, that's kind of paradoxical and maybe a little counterintuitive, but it makes sense if you think about it. If you're healthy and you're carrying it, but you're too healthy to notice, it doesn't mean you can't spread it to people with weak immune systems. Similarly, here in 2025, I'm mentally healthy. I can talk about whatever and go to sleep just fine. It doesn't really change my life, but they will say, well, these ideas will cause the mentally ill people to become violent or destructive or whatever they're going to say. And this is why I maintain that the general public has been given mind aids or maids by the government, meaning their mental immune systems have been devastated. Okay, I have a caller here getting through. Let me go ahead and open up that phone. 1 second. Hey, what's up, caller? Jurassic Liars. Okay, give me 1 second so I can bring you online here. And I'm going to make sure that I don't put your number on the screen. So let me tell everybody to close their eyes. Okay, so everyone in the chat, can you tell me if you can hear Jurassic Liars? I think they can. Now I think they can. Okay, go ahead. So Jurassic Liars is on the phone.
So I heard you talking about this because I was going to talk about it today, but I got sidetracked with this Pope stuff. There's a story out of Ohio because, I told you Trump's going to get his head won on August 4th in Ohio.
Right.
And my other prediction is June 11th, Washington State, right? So you've been talking about this Ray, whatever. What is the story you're talking about?
This Rodney Hinton.
Ray, yeah. Do you know that supposedly he killed a police officer?
Yeah, the story is his son got killed and then he retaliates by killing a police officer. Exactly.
Yeah. Do you know who the police officer was?
No. I heard he was a retired deputy doing traffic work. What was his name?
Okay, first of all, let's start with the name because the man's son is the host code. His name is Henderson. He's got the son in his name, right?
Okay. Henderson, got it.
Right. And guess when he's born? He's born, you would think that since we're talking about Trump getting his head won, it would be Trump's birthday, but he's born on June 11th.
That's crazy. The cop that was killed was born on
June 11th.
Which, of course, says 6/11, the timestamp that Trump was shot at, 6/11. So you have a 6/11 connection in this event. That's totally expected, actually, to be honest, because the more I look at it, the more I'm seeing that this has got code in it. I think Rodney is 100% a code tied into Rodney King. And the way his family's responding, the coverage they're getting, none of it seems real to me. It seems really fake. But yeah, the 6/11 birthday on that's confirmation here that there's something to it. And they also have framed this guy to look like Luigi. You see him, Rodney Hinton Jr., in his orange prison vest, surrounded by like 50 cops, just like the perp walk with Luigi Mangione.
Yeah, and he died in Cincinnati, which is in Hamilton County. And it says here, Larry joined the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office as a corrections officer on June 14th, which is Trump's birthday.
Okay, so Flag Day, Trump's birthday. And how many times have we seen 6/14 connected with this? Like there's that Heather Donaldson, comedian with that birthday, 614, who fell and hit her head. We have the 614 being alluded to in Don't Look Up when the meteor is going to hit the Earth. So yeah, 614, very interesting timing for that one as well. So we have these two very interesting dates, and then connecting it to this particular event, which is part of a chain of events. Very good find there. Very good find.
Yeah, and what else? Man, there was another big story. I just can't remember it now that I was going to call you about, but I can't remember what it is, man. Darn it.
Well, in the meantime, I remember I posted on your YouTube page a picture of the Final Destination, the Space Needle, and how it's all about a prophecy about the Space Needle being destroyed, and how this one takes place before the first movie that was all about the plane crash and 9/11 stuff. What'd you think of that? Did you see that Final Destination trailer?
Yeah, and yeah, it's all about that prophecy, like you're saying. And what's interesting is that movie is probably going to be the #1 movie when this June 11th event happens.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that movie, for people who don't know, Final Destination, it's got a trailer that's all about this prophesied destruction of the Space Needle. And because the protagonist warned people, it didn't happen. And now it's going to happen. But instead of taking out the Space Needle, it took out the plane in Final Destination that happened right before 9/11 that people took as, I would take that as predictive programming regardless. But again, that Final Destination will more than likely be the top movie. And that's going to be in about a week.
Yeah, and man, I wish I could figure out what was that other thing I was going to tell you. But yeah, keep going talking, man. So
Okay.
I figure it out.
So I've seen other people looking into it, and they noticed that the girl in the movie that warns everybody the Space Needle is going to explode is wearing a blue dress looking like Dorothy in the Space Needle. And this person was connecting the Space Needle to the Emerald City. And of course, Seattle being the Emerald City. And then someone else had remarked something about Kate Perry going to space around that time. And at one of these music award shows, she had actually done this Wizard of Oz skit. But yeah, I have the channel. I think it's called. Let's see if I can find it. There's a YouTube channel where this person done a breakdown of it. But I have to wait and see. But it's beyond any doubt here, though. The movie's going to be consistent with the pattern here because it, like the first one, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick before I forget, you've been talking about this other story, but you keep not mentioning the most important part about that twin story that the black guy killed this twin, Metcalf.
Yes. And
how come you're not mentioning that the kid looks like Elvis?
Okay, I hadn't thought about that, but let's get into that because Austin Metcalf gets killed by Anthony Carmelo. There's a twin scenario. And what struck me as an indicator this was a hoax is that the right-wing agitator trying to start this dialogue between races over this thing is a January 6er. So I'm like, this has got to be a psyop. And then I had just gone to see the movie Sinners, where it has these two twins, and one twin dies in the other's arms, just like what happened at that scene. And the movie had the subtext of racism, where the vampires are all white. And so I saw that movie knowing it was going to connect to all these psyops for the time. But the twin theme was huge. The twins in both these movies. And I keep seeing this twin stuff. Like I mentioned, the Pope at 88 stepping down the same day as Dr. Klaus Schwab at 88. And they're both twins in a number of ways. They're archetypes, head of the Vatican, head of the World Economic Forum. So I'm like, what's with all this twin stuff? And Elvis, of course, for people who don't know, was a twin. His brother's name was what? His unborn?
Jesse. Yeah, I mean, the kid looks like Elvis, and the fact that he was an identical twin, the one you're talking about, the Metcalf kid, there's certain picture that looks literally like Elvis as a younger kid.
I'm looking at him now on my phone, and I can see what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have some people on our Discord combine the two. Interesting comparison.
So you got to get the right picture.
Okay.
The one that they were using a lot, that's the one I saw. But if you go to Google, there's a bunch of pictures. Sometimes it doesn't look that, but it's a certain picture. I wish I could show you. I can't show you over the phone.
We'll get it. We'll get it. Something else about that story that stood out to me is in the original pictures of him, he was shown with a jersey, on a football jersey, number 33, next to somebody with I think it was there's a 9113 kind of built into it. And so many indicators of this thing being very hoaxy, but the twin thing is what really stood out to me on this whole psyop. And it hadn't really occurred to me that it had an Elvis connection.
Yeah, and then there's this that Cynthia Erivo creature, that the one that's going to play Jesus Christ.
She's going to play Jesus?
Yeah, you know that, right? Remember I think we talked about this about a month ago.
Yeah, okay. Wicked. We're talking about Wicked, right? And the Wicked Witch, whose birthday happens to be Elvis's birthday, and you're saying she's going to play Jesus.
Right. She played Jesus in the play, right? This Jesus Christ Superstar thing. And there's a new something that just came out about it, besides what we talked about before when I mentioned it, because that creature who was playing in the Wicked movie was the Wizard of Oz thing and the Emerald City crap. And remember, they were both at the Rose Parade, the Wicked float, and Elvis was there with the Mississippi float. And then on Elvis's birthday, 7 days later, after the Rose Parade, you had the big fires where the Rose Parade was. The whole place burned down, right?
I remember all these connections, and there were some very specific things about the float with Cynthia Erivo, and that's when he told me she had Elvis's birthday. And the significance here, if people don't know, she's the Wicked Witch, and at the end of Wicked, she flies above Seattle, or the Emerald City, symbolically, and does an EMP, shuts it down. And it says here she's going to portray a female Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar this August.
So that's Elvis, basically, because the creature's born on Elvis' birthday. But here's the catch. So I'm sitting here watching TV the other day, just like a couple of days ago. All of a sudden I see it says Adam Lambert is playing Judas, right? And Adam Lambert is this idiot from American Idol who came in second one year, one of the seasons. He became famous, and now he even sings with the band Queen sometimes. But that dude, if you look at him, he looks just like Elvis, and he kind of looks like that Metcalf dude. So Judas is Elvis. Because remember, I told you Judas equals the word Satan in Gematria, and Satan entered Judas in the Bible.
I didn't know that. But okay. So I'm looking at his pictures, and I can certainly see how Adam Lambert had been stylized here. So we're looking like archetypes is what we're really talking about. And these are meant to be visually similar. Lambert cast as Judas Iscariot in Jesus Christ Superstar. Okay, I see that.
And he loves Elvis. He's copied Elvis's style a bunch of times. And so anyway, the point is that it's basically the whole thing is Elvis. Elvis is Judas. Elvis is Jesus. You know what I mean? Because the whole thing is like an Elvis connection.
Well, the Space Needle Elvis connections. The Space Needle, which is the subject of 611, has so many Elvis connections that we can get into. But the main ones, I think, Dr. Evil, of course, his headquarters in the Space Needle. But what were the other ones? So we have the whole 42 thing as well as like totally encoded into the Space Needle. Elvis's death at 42. He's got a lot of this 42 code. And I've correlated this number 42 with the fallen angel concept, or the descent of light into matter, and the rock star, in fact, a meteor. It's a rock, but you see it as a light in the celestial, then it comes down. And I look at Elvis as embodying this fallen angel archetype in many ways.
Yeah, and Elvis died at the age of 42. Washington's the 42nd state where the Seattle event's going to be. And when Elvis and Elvis made the movie. It happened at the World's Fair where he was in the Space Needle. He was the first famous person to have anything to do with the Space Needle when he made that movie. And the year Elvis took the polio injection, the needle, he did it on Bill Gates' birthday, which Bill Gates, was born in Seattle, Washington, next to the needle, and he promotes the needle, that Bill Gates. But anyway, he took it on Bill Gates' first birthday, the needle, and the guy who invented the polio injection was 42 years old on that day, same day as Bill Gates' birthday, the day Elvis took the needle,
Interesting.
And
Interesting. That's a fascinating connection there. The polio thing. I knew the Bill Gates one, but the polio guy, and these numbers and codes, whatever you think of them, they are there. The Space Needle is 42 meters wide at the UFO, it's designed to be a UFO, which adds to 42, and it's a 42-second ride to the top. And 42 is heavily encoded into SpaceX, thanks to Elon Musk. And they say it's because of this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but that's misdirection, because the 42 is consistently used throughout even Blue Origin. Like Jeff Bezos, who's Dr. Evil, he has a $42 million clock in the Sierra Diablo Mountains. I mean, that's like code, obviously. Kronos, Saturn.
Yeah, and the year Elvis took the needle, a horse in the horse racing won 2 out of the 3 in the Triple Crown, and his name was Needles. The year Elvis took the needle, so the horse that won 2 out of the 3, and 2 out of 3 is 66.6666. It's got a connection to the 666 stuff, but
the needle itself, the obelisk symbol, like the Washington Monument, for example, that it's also been termed Cleopatra's Needle. Like that's kind of a phrase that relates to the same structure. And the Space Needle is just a space age obelisk. And Dr. Back Aswards in chat says it looks like a mushroom. I've seen people connect it with the mushroom cloud, like as a symbol. And I kind of think that might be pertinent, because everything that I see predictive programming wise correlates to a mushroom cloud in Seattle, high altitude, or however it plays out. How do you think it's going to go down?
Well, that's the only thing that I could think of that would change the world. Like I said, it would be a supposed nuke, but of course they just got explosives everywhere across the city and state, whatever the hell. And of course, Space Needle equals the word fallen angel in gematria, exact same numbers. But I just forgot what I was going to say. There was somewhere I was going with the Space Needle thing. It opened on 4/21, right? And that's the day the Pope died.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, in 2019, they put $100 million into it. They called it the Century Project. And I picked up a lot of stuff, predictive programming wise, tying the number 100 into the Space Needle and this whole theme. But when I'm looking at that $100 million, I'm thinking, well, what could that buy in terms of you're getting infrastructure ready for some kind of mass controlled demolition? I mean, look what they did with 9/11 to a number of buildings. So they could, I'm suggesting, do something analogous here in Seattle, and they might have already set it up. Like they might have used the excuse of the Century Project and all these renovations to prepare for whatever they're going to do. And that's what I'm thinking.
Well, that's what I said when they were doing it. I was telling them that's what they probably did with all that money that they spent on it. And also, same thing with Amazon leaving most of the area of Seattle, the headquarters. They moved it outside of Seattle, like I don't know exactly where, but they moved it a little bit outside of Seattle or something. But so all that headquarters, who knows if they have explosives planted in all of these buildings that are probably not being used, if you know what I'm saying, or underwater.
Exactly. And they did say, and I think this is kind of code too, they said that they relocated 2,800 some Amazon employees, and they said it was because of a crime wave. And I was, at the same time, they were doing simulations for what would happen if there was a nuke off the coast, and they said it would cause a 42-foot tidal wave to hit that area. And so I think they were clearing them in advance of the incoming tidal wave that they're going to create.
Well, and the immigration bill was called Title 42.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. But title, Title, but sounds like tidal wave, you know what I mean?
Now, somewhat related, because we've been talking about Emerald City and Wizard of Oz and stuff. So I was recently reminded that Dr. Oz was born on 6/11, and he was born in Cleveland, Ohio. And so there's this repeated code, like Cleveland, this implication of the fault line being somehow targeted with something in order to break the land or something, or create this cleavage. And so is that what you're still thinking? It's
yeah, that's why he picked Oz as his next to him. I was talking about Oz before Trump ever even mentioned him in his thing. And I was telling everyone about Oz, that stupid Dr. Oz being born on June 11th, and him being in Cleveland, Ohio, which is my other prediction, because it's the 216 area code. That's the day Trump gets his head wound on August 4th. But I'm not saying it's going to happen in Cleveland. I'm just saying it's going to be somewhere in Ohio, but it has to be August 4th. And it's just incredible that he's born on June 11th, which is my other prediction, and he's in the 216 area code he's born. It's beyond ridiculous. And the fact that he picks them, and we're talking about Oz, the Wizard of Oz, and the Emerald City connection, it's too perfect, you know?
Oh, and something else too, because you're always correlating head wound and the nuke. So the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment created that big mushroom cloud that looked like a nuke, and then it was mirrored in that movie White Noise. And White Noise has Adam Driver as the main character. So you have Adam Driver associated with East Palestine, Ohio, and this mushroom cloud. Same actor plays Caesar in Megalopolis, who represents Trump, and he gets the head wound that he survives miraculously. The connection here, though, same actor, two different roles: head wound, nuke. Palestine, Ohio, and Butler, Pennsylvania are 42 miles apart. And this was highlighted last year. They said this was a very significant 42-mile stretch of land for the election. But I remember pointing this out. You have the 42 connection and the reiteration of the head wound being adjacent to the nuke scenario, and the same actor in both of these movies as the protagonist.
And what, didn't Caesar have something to do with the date 7/13, the day that Trump got shot? I can't remember now.
I'll have to look, because 7/13 is a big deal in terms of like these dates and these events for them. 7/13 was the date of the blackouts in Manhattan in 1977. And then 42 years later, on the same day, from 42nd Street on, this was all in the news, 42,000 people were put in the dark. And they compared it to that. This is the 2019 Manhattan blackout.
Right.
So I associated 7/13 with these blackouts, and there's a number of events that tie in with that particular date. And in fact, there's a movie called How It Ends, which has some kind of Seattle destruction scenario, released on 7/13. Again, this is all interconnected. And of course, yeah, go ahead. But so 7/13
and the
blackout.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And the time, that day that he got shot, which, I mean, supposedly shot, was 6:11 on the clock.
That's ridiculous. 6:11 and 33 seconds. And they even, I mean, I've seen influencers high up in right-wing media saying that's a sign from God. 6:11 is Ephesians, the armor of God. And it's like, they probably believe that, I'm sure, but that's just code. And the fact that this guy you mentioned, the police officer, that's his birthday, that's proof positive to me that we're looking at another PSYOP hoax, but it's also more foreshadowing. I mean, this is a pretty intense buildup.
Right, and then he went back to Butler, Pennsylvania, 84 days later.
84 days later, went back to Butler, Pennsylvania.
And he did the moment of silence at exactly 6:11.
And okay, so before you made some connections between the date, which was like what, October 5th or something, and Elton John, Rocket Man's birthday. And then he shows up there with the other Rocket Man, Elon Musk. But what kind of stood out to me here is that lately Elton John's been in the news because of I believe loss of vision in one of his eyes.
Yeah, I mean, you know more about that one than I do. I remember that. Yeah.
Well, I saw it in here recently. Elton John. I'm seeing if I can pull this up here. But anyway, the point of it is the Rocket Man theme has been here it is. He lost his vision due to eye infection. It's been in the news lately, like last month. He says it's distressing, talks about a loss of eyesight and all this. So this has been a reoccurring theme as of late. And then we had the thing with Jay Leno, who lost his ear and then his eye, or had his eye injured. But we've seen examples of these celebrities associated with these events in various ways, and it's like they're reenacting or preparing us for the effects that they're going to have in this upcoming event.
Yeah, and I mean, just the whole fact that he did a moment of silence at 6:11, 84 days after he got his ear clipped. He goes back to the same place 84 days later. So he had the 8-4 connection, 6:11 the time.